These are two class members of the 2024 Buffalo Trace Antique Collection, the George T. Stagg and the William Larue Weller. These two bourbons are usually the most sought after of the collection each and every year, but also vastly different. Today I want to break down how different these two really are, which one I prefer, and see if one or both have a shot of being Bourbon of the Year. Stay tuned, it's the Mash and Drum. What's up, folks? I'm Jason C. from the Mash and Drum, and welcome back to the show. Like, subscribe, and help me keep climbing to 100,000 subscribers here as we get close to the end of the year and into 2025. So as I mentioned, the 2024 Buffalo Trace Antique Collection consists of 5 iconic whiskeys produced by the Buffalo Trace Distillery, America's oldest continuously operating distillery. Now, before we dive into today's review, I have the perfect gift for someone you love. Today's sponsor is back with a great Black Friday deal. It is Original Grain. The perfect gift for your loved ones this holiday season is here, and of course, it's from Original Grain. Original Grain makes the most beautiful watches that I've personally given as gifts the last couple years, and they still get talked about all the time. Today, you can save over $100 with Original Grain. They're running a $100 off Black Friday sale, but you can use my code MASH to get an extra 10% off. So why Original Grain? Since 2013, Original Grain has created watches with whiskey barrels, beer barrels, tailored guitars, railroad ties, and military surplus crates. The materials are literally embedded and are ingrained into the watch. It's not only about making a beautiful timepiece, but it also tells a story about the person wearing it. So no matter what you resonate with, there's a perfect watch for someone special or even for you. They've also made some watches that include exclusive partnerships with Stone Brewing Company, Indiana Motorcycles, Toyota Racing, a new collection honoring the late Bob Marley, Buffalo Trace, and Jack Daniels. Original Grain's partnership with Jack Daniels has given us some of the most striking watches I've seen from Original Grain. The collection features 5 unique timepieces, 2 of them are new, that incorporate wood from authentic reclaimed Jack Daniels whiskey barrels from Lynchburg, Tennessee. My personal favorite is the new rugged and charred barrel watches. These will be perfect for the whiskey lover in your life. Original Grain, by the way, are a veteran family-owned company. They offer free shipping, a great warranty, amazing customer service, and they dedicate themselves to helping many veteran organizations. Now, as you can see, I have a good amount of watches myself, but I have gifted these watches to both my mom and to my girlfriend's dad. They talk about those watches all the time, but I think the biggest reaction I got was from my Uncle Tony, who's not really impressed by much. He's a Vietnam vet, and I got him one of the military surplus watches, and he absolutely loves it, and he talks about it all the time, and again, all the people that say something about it when they see him. All right, time for you to get your perfect gift. Like I said, you could save over $100 with Original Grain. They are running a $100 off Black Friday sale now, but you can use code MASH to get an extra 10% off. So click the link below in the description or in the comments, search the site, find that perfect gift, and don't forget to use the code MASH at checkout to gift one of these beautiful watches today. Go grab one now, and cheers. This year's release features all 5 Buffalo Trace Antique Collection staples, the Eagle Rare 17, George T. Stagg, Thomas H. Handy Rye, Sazerac 18, and William Larue Weller Bourbon. So today we're going to review 2 of these beauties and see how different they really are and which one I prefer. Now, I bought last year's George T. Stagg, but this is the first William Larue Weller that I have purchased in probably a few years, I think since 2019 or 2018, so it's been a while. So excited to dive into both of these. First, let's start with the William Larue Weller. The 2024 William Larue Weller was aged 12 years and 6 months in barrels stored on the lower floors of a warehouse at Buffalo Trace. The barrel entry proof was 114, and by the time it was ready to be bottled, the final proof was 125.8 proof. SRP for this one is $150, but as you guys know, prices on these go way higher than that in the open market. Usually, any William Larue Weller is anywhere from $1,000 to sometimes even $1,500 and $2,000 if the hype gets crazy on a particular release. All right, let's see how much I could break this down. This is about my 3rd or 4th pour, so I think it's opened up quite nicely. So let's dive in. Here we go. Always a good day when B-Tac's in the whiskey room. Here we go. First thing I notice is how floral it is. There's a very rich florality to it. I was never sure if florality is an actual word, but there's a rich floral component to me on this one, and I think that generally comes from that wheated mash bill. There's a very distinct tobacco note on here. I mean, it just reminds you of a really sweet cigar or sweet tobacco, and I mean, that really kind of jumps out of the glass from the beginning. I think as this has opened up, those sweet tobacco notes have kind of taken a little bit more of a back seat, and now the bright fruit notes that you're used to getting with the wheated bourbon are starting to come to the forefront. I feel like I'm getting a ripe strawberry here, which is beautiful. Definitely some vanilla extract. You got some this beautiful sweet oak note that kind of just rounds everything together, kind of holds everything together with all these different notes going on. Man, this has gotten so much fruit forward from when I first opened it. I'm telling you, when I first cracked this, the tobacco note in here was really strong for me, but now it's gotten a lot more fruit forward. Again, that ripe strawberry note. You can make a case for like a kind of a caramelized apple note. And I'm talking like a rich red apple, not like a Granny Smith. This is like a very rich apple note. Again, the caramel, the spice. All right, enough nosing. Let's give it a try. Here we go. Cheers. Those strawberry, raspberry notes, man, just the flavors of this just explode on the palate. And that's what you expect from a Buffalo Trace Antique collection. It's all those rich fruits I was talking about. Not so much apple on the palate. I think that's a little bit more on the nose, that caramel apple note. But man, the front of the palate is just strawberry, raspberry. The amount of rich fruit you get on the palate on this is insane. It's just so good. It's so rich and mouth coating. The texture of a great wheated bourbon, I think, is what really makes a good wheated bourbon stand out. As you guys know, I'm not a huge wheated bourbon fan, but when it's done like this, you can see why people really do enjoy wheated bourbons. But I mean, strawberry, blackberry, maybe a hint of like a grape on the palate. It's just so silky and sweet. On the second sip, that's where the oak kind of came in. That's where the oak just gets into the back of the palate, gives you a lot of baking spice, but there's this very rich, almost burnt caramel note that hits on the very back end of this one. That just kind of, it's on the borderline of getting to like a bitter caramel, but it doesn't really ever get there. I think then it gets into the oak, and the finish on this, it's a very long finish, and I love how layered the finish is. You get all those fruit notes, the caramel. Again, that little floral component that I was picking up in the beginning also makes itself to be known. Again, that sweet tobacco that was kind of taking a back seat. Don't get it as much in the front of the palate, but I do get a little bit of it on the back end of this one. This bottle has been getting a lot of the hype from the Buffalo Trace Antique collection for the most part, but I did want to try this one first because I feel like going to the George T. Stagg, a little bit of a higher proof, it'll be a different experience, and that's why I wanted to kind of do these head to head. I could see why people are loving William Larue Weller this year. It's just a fruit bomb to me. Okay, so let's go to the George T. Stagg and see what that difference is. All right, so the George T. Stagg bourbon was first released by Buffalo Trace back in 2002 in response to a consumer request for a well-aged barrel strength whiskey. George T. Stagg, by the way, was the original purchaser of the OFC distillery, now famously recognized as Buffalo Trace Distillery. This year's George T. Stagg was bottled at 136.1 proof from barrels aged for 15 years and 2 months. Entry proof was 125, was also aged on the lower floors of the Buffalo Trace rickhouses. SRP for this as well is 150 bucks. All right, so as much attention William Larue Weller has gotten recently, George T. Stagg for 2024 has also garnered a lot of attention, more than we've had in the last couple of years. So let's dive in. Here we go. So the biggest difference I get, at least on the nose, when you're comparing William Larue Weller versus George T. Stagg is the amount of oak. Whereas the oak takes a little bit more of a back seat in William Larue Weller, the oak is up front and here when it comes to George T. Stagg. It's at the forefront. The nose is just so in your face and so powerful. Again, the rich oak, I do think a lot of that cherry comes to the forefront as well. Cherry is usually a pretty popular note that everybody gets in George T. Stagg, and it is here. However, it feels a little bit more concentrated. I mean, it's like Luxardo cherry. It's very rich. Got the oak char here, the deep rich like black cherry note. Your caramels and vanillas are here, but I also feel like this shows more of the age than the William Larue Weller does. Again, this is a little bit more in your face compared to what the William Larue Weller brings. So, all right, let's try it. Here we go. On the palate, it's more of the same. That dark cherry note that is actually combining a little bit of like a raisin note or a grape note, like a rich red grape, just kind of comes into the palate as well. But man, then you just get this very rich caramel. One thing I'm also getting on the palate that I wasn't getting on the nose is this little hint of a milk chocolate. It's giving me almost like a dark cherry, like Tootsie Pop vibe, which, you know, friggin' delicious. Here we go. It gets into such a candy coated vibe on everything here, but it doesn't get like, all right, so you have Stagg or Stagg Jr., whatever you want to call it. And some people love those because they can get very cloyingly sweet at times. George T. Stagg takes that part of Stagg Jr. and gives it more body, more texture, and much longer of a finish. The oak, the caramel, the richness that you get on the finish on this bourbon is much more of any experience that I've had with any, Stagg Jr. There's just a lot more going on here. This is so heavy cherry, grape, cherry cola, oak, spiced cherry. It's kind of it kind of like bridges the gap between cherry cola and Dr. Pepper almost. It is so insanely concentrated and so good. I don't really know which one I like more. I know that's kind of the point of the video. However, I do think that the contrast between the two are vastly different, and I think people always try to compare the two, but I think each one kind of stands on its own for what it is. So when it comes to each of these and which one should you buy, I think a lot of people look at these bottles in terms of value, which one is worth more, which right now is the William Larue Weller. However, this year, when it comes to just purely flavor and what you're getting, I think for me, the George T. Stagg is just where it's at this year. The George T. Stagg is an absolute beast this year. It is rich, dark fruit, oak, caramel, that kind of combination of with the hint of chocolate, the dark, rich cherry, almost like the Dr. Pepper vibes. Like, this is to the point where I might get a backup of this one. Now, the true test is really to see how it does in a blind at the end of the year once we put it against Russell's 15. Russell's 15 has been kind of my leader in the clubhouse for Bourbon of the Year since I tried it. Now, this might have something to say about that. Now, in terms of the William Larue Weller, this is a way different experience. It's a little bit lighter, but the fruit notes in here are brighter. Like I said, strawberry, raspberry, little hint of kind of a caramel apple note, and it kind of really gets into that realm of what you get. I do think the finish on the William Larue Weller, I like it more than the finish on the George T. Stagg. And while George T. Stagg does have a nice finish to it, I think William Larue Weller, once it kind of blooms on the back end, it just gives you more different layered flavors than you get on the George T. Stagg. George T. Stagg has more proof. You're gonna feel it more, but I think there's more flavor on the finish to William Larue Weller. So if there's anything that the William Larue Weller wins at, it's gonna be on the finish. But when it comes to 2024, WLW versus Stagg, or George T. Stagg, I should say, George T. Stagg is an absolute hitter this year. All right, guys, well, hope you enjoyed this review for the William Larue Weller and George T. Stagg bourbons from the BTAC 2024 collection. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. And if you haven't yet, follow me on Instagram. Let me know down in the comments if you're on the hunt for any of these. Were you lucky enough to hit any state lotteries or any, raffles that you were part of here at the end of the year, or you're still waiting on possibly grabbing one of these? Let me know down in the comments. And as I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. Cheers, and I'll see you next time right here on the Master and Drum. I'm gonna have some more George T. Stagg.